Hey there, Fantas. Adam here. Before the show, I want to apologize that this episode was delayed. Our recording schedule got shifted when Aaron was feeling sick and fatigued last week. Turns out that he had a positive COVID test, so he's currently quarantined and recovering the week before Christmas of all things. So please send him your thoughts, prayers, and energy. If you want to send a more direct message, please do so at KenanCalPodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter at KenanCalPodcast. Anything you can send to boost his spirits would be a big help right now. For the rest of 2020, I'll be releasing our backlog, so expect in January about a week or two to be missing as we get back up to speed and Aaron's energy returns. All right then, here it goes.
Goodbye.
Or hello, everybody.
My internet very dramatically froze. right then. I think we'll keep it. What I meant to say was this episode is all about goodbyes. So instead of greeting you, I decided to greet you with a goodbye. Welcome, everybody, to Kenan and Kel.
With Adam and Aaron. I'm Adam.
And I'm Aaron. And we're sad.
Yeah, the episode that we did is the penultimate episode of Season 2 of Kenan and Kel. Famously, probably one of the better-known episodes, called Bye Kenan, Part 1.
Better known for many reasons, but mostly the emotional draw from what comes out of this acting in this episode. Unlike any other episode of Kenan and Kel so far, this episode really pulls the heartstrings, even more so than the Christmas episode, in my opinion.
I noted it a couple times earlier in our run, but this is the real emotional climax of the entire series.
Yep, and we really start to reflect on Kenan and Kel's friendship and brotherhood.
Yeah, well, we see everything they've gone through so far in the series has built to this. In the same way that the Christmas episode really justifies Kenan's actions throughout the end, that he's a good boy deep down.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we're brought to that same level of reflection and introspection.
Worth mentioning here, this was the Christmas kind of special for the following year. The Part 1 aired on December. I believe it was December 20th of 1997. And the following one aired on December 27th, a week later, with Christmas. That'd be the worst Christmas ever, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's the Christmas where Kenan and Kel were living apart from each other.
Oh my gosh. Just traumatic. Just traumatic, yeah. Oh.
Well, let's not waste any more time. Yeah, let's join Cooley on the big orange couch.
Grab your tissues, people.
It sets the mood pretty early about what's in store.
Yeah, we enter with Kenan and Kel. Of course, Kenan wearing a blue rugby shirt type style with some very baggy yellow pants, which are important. We'll find out in a moment. Kel's wearing one of those like football jersey polos. blue and orange.
Blue and orange. Yeah. I think we've seen both these outfits before, but they still shock you.
Yes, they are quite beautiful.
Kel introduced himself first because Kenan is all kind of choked up.
And yeah, Kenan tries to introduce himself and can't. He starts crying.
Yeah, it's really sad. And I gotta say, do you think Kenan's upset because he knows what's going to happen in this episode? Or like in a meta sense? Or like the scenes that are to follow are like in a separate order? Like this stage would happen after the first scene of the episode.
I think he probably snuck into the director's room or producer's room and stole the script and realized what was going to happen. And so at the same time as they are Kenan and Kel on stage, they're like half between like their characters and their real life people. So, but they're mostly their characters.
Maybe this was the producers getting back at Kenan for reading the script ahead of time.
Yeah, it's very possible. They're like, hey, take this. And so Kenan's just a mess. It's like when you know you're going to have to stay up late and the whole day you're kind of just like, you're like really, like
or you've already stayed up late, but you're not done yet.
Yes.
And he's just losing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure both of us can relate to that this past month.
This past week.
Yeah. Right. So Cal's trying to get the answer out of Kenan to why he's so upset. And he gives a couple of examples.
He's very upset about the weather because
it might rain.
Kel says something very, profound. He's like, "Well, what's the big deal if it rains?" Like,
that is, you can put that on a t-shirt.
It's like, he's like, "Yeah, so what?"
That goes in like a windbreaker that doesn't have a hood.
Yeah. Good marketing there. And Kenan goes, it can get people wet. Screw's like crying,
He pulls out a hanky and blows into it and gives it to Kel.
Yeah, Kel I think Kel tries to like shake it off, and like does some really bad like miming. It sticks on his hand.
He prompts him again, and Kenan explains that his pants are too tight. That's why he's so upset.
His pants are the loosest, baggiest pants he owns.
Well, that's what Kel says.
No, Kel says, "Oh, they look fine." Not like, "Oh, they're really baggy."
Yeah, and Kenan replies, "You can never tell what's going on in another man's pants."
Which is just excellent writing here. Excellent job.
But finally, Kenan tells Kel that he will learn during the show why he's so sad.
Kenan walks off stage early without making a big grand deal, and that is
no nicknames for Kel this episode, which I thought was very interesting.
No nicknames, no laughs, no energy, just
written by the main trio too. So it's Dan Schneider, Heath Seifert, and Kevin Coppolo.
Kevin Coppolo. Thank you, you three, for this tearjerker of an episode. All right, so this whole time, Kel is very genuinely curious and really cares about Kenan. He's like trying to figure out what's wrong. He's like, wait, why? You know how it is when like somebody you love is in a bad mood, and you're like, why are you in a bad mood? Like things aren't that bad.
Sometimes they're just off, and you can tell it too, if you know them for a while.
Mm-hmm. And these two definitely know each other.
His final joke is that in response to the hanky still in his hand, he says, "It's all heavy."
Yep. Which is a good way to describe it, but, a little odd.
Yeah, that's this episode. It's all heavy.
It is heavy. It's heavy. It's rough out here. It feels like 2020, this episode. Came 23 years too early.
Oh, here it goes. Let's talk about the show.
So we enter with Kyra watching TV in the Rockmore's TV room.
Yes, she's watching something involving a rabbit and a chainsaw.
And it's a cartoon, so one can only imagine.
She hears an ominous voice coming from somewhere in the family room.
Yes, but before we hear that voice, we see Kenan and Kel hiding behind the kitchen wall, recently installed many episodes ago in season 1. that wall.
Yeah, you can tell that they have a bright orange walkie-talkie in their hands.
And they're laughing. They're like, hey, watch this. And so they say into the walkie-talkie, "Get out." And Kyra, of course, thinks it's a ghost.
And freaks out. An evil ghost, as she says to her mom.
Yeah, so she screams and runs upstairs. Or not runs upstairs, but runs over to the stairs, and Cheryl comes down.
Does Kyra seem like we noted this from over the course of the season. She seems much older in this finale, right?
Everybody's older. Kel's older, Kenan's older, everybody's older in this episode. Yeah.
That's interesting. I wondered, like, if there was like a summer break or something like that.
Well,
that
I don't know what happened, like what the filming schedule was, because Amazon has the dates, and I mean, even Wikipedia has the dates all over the place for the order of the season. So I really have no idea.
Yeah, so I know season 1 was filmed between like maybe like April to August, like across that period of time. And I'm surprised I haven't discovered it yet, because it baffles me every time I think about it. It's like, was a weekend episode? And they had a live studio audience the whole time. Was it the same studio audience for the whole episode?
Adam, if anybody's gonna find this out, it's gonna be us. So we got to do some deep digging here.
I'm trying.
What we should do, Adam, is we should probably watch every episode and then like try to date them, like say which one, like with the order of. You know what I mean? Like we should kind of go back and look at what they looked like in each intro and just like screenshot it and then create like a montage of where we think they fit.
Hey, I'm all for it. Once you run out of episodes, is a great idea.
all our fans, maybe they'll buy some fan art. Ooh, we can make it like one T-shirt with like all the screenshots.
Oh, that'd be really cool. I do know a particular piece of fan art that I want in my apartment from this episode. But we'll get into that a little later.
Oh, yeah. We'll get in there. We'll get there.
Cheryl gets mad at Kenan for his goofing around.
Yeah, she finds the walkie-talkie and says, you better get in here in 3 seconds. And then they come in, they're laughing. And as they're laughing, Roger bursts through the front door saying, hello, family.
Happy for once in his sad life.
Misery. His life is full of misery.
He has a particular job for Kel. He never has a job for Kel, so Kel's interested. What's the job?
He walks Kel to the front door and says, go home.
Because they're having a family meeting.
Yes. And so they kick Kel out, and Kel has the other walkie-talkie. He like walks away with it. They're like, okay, we'll keep in touch. And yeah, so they have a family meeting, and everybody's like, family meeting, what's that about? So they all sit down, and what happens?
Well, first, Kyra and Kenan have their theories of what's going on.
Yeah, Kyra asks if they're having a baby sister.
Oh, no, nope.
They're going to have a baby brother.
No. To Kenan's guess.
We got tacos for dinner.
Which is great. Because then, as soon as Roger says, no, it's not tacos, then Kenan gets real serious. He says, well, then what's this all about, Father?
He goes, Kyra, Kenan. And they put their heads together and go, yes.
Well, it's great because they don't know what's about to happen, and they really they think this is fun, and this is going to be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the bomb's about to drop on them.
And what is the bomb, Adam?
Well, the Mirage bomb is that Mr. Rockmore is getting a new job.
And what is the new job, and why is that a big deal?
He's gonna fulfill his lifelong dream of being a mountain ranger.
Is that Roger or Santa Claus?
they're pretty close.
That was Santa Claus from SpongeBob. He's been a very good boy this year.
He's gonna become Ranger Roger.
He's going to... It's always been his dream to be a mountain ranger in the deep wilderness. And Kenan's like, but Pop, there's no wilderness in Chicago. There's no hills or mountains or anything.
That's why we're moving to Pummis, Montana.
Montana?
Pummis. And Kenan and Kyra object profusely.
Yeah, they're like, what? We can't. We have school. We have, it's like, what's happening? Like, we can't leave Chicago. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Kenan's got his job. He's got his best friend. And apparently it's settled. There's nothing they can do. They're leaving in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Kenan says, but Pop, we can't leave. I got school. I got my job. And what about... Kind of pauses. And this is where I first started to tear up.
Oh yeah,
because it just hits you. It's like, wow,
they
love each other so much, him and Kel.
And you get there's a voice over his walkie-talkie. It's Kel to Kenan asking if the family meeting's over. And for the first time in this episode, you hear the sad Kenan and Kel song theme.
We should probably play it for them.
Oh yeah, it's also going to be the transition music of the of this one. It's really, really close to the main like theme, but they just slow it down a little bit, and all of a sudden it is like heartbreaking sad.
Yeah, it's like slowed down a few tempos and or music terms. I don't actually know music.
Yeah, it's a few music terms shorter.
A few octaves, few chords.
Yeah. So it kind of plays out this sad realization for Kenan.
Yes, it does.
And unfortunately, it's like this episode's it's all emotional like whiplash because you go from this sad moment to Rigby's where things are like normal.
Not really.
Regular.
They're not really normal.
Yeah.
Chris is super giddy.
Yeah, he's better than normal.
Yeah, things are really going well at Rigby's, and so Chris is running around the store, and he's grabbing these different items, and he's running back to the cash register. And what's he doing?
He is running them over their new laser scanner,
built into the counter. Which
I gotta say, we have to pause here and talk about this counter.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
This whole season we've been discussing this counter and how it represents like power and control, and how that like applies to different situations. What has happened in this episode is that Chris has changed the countertop. He has like for this scanner he has put a hole into the control of Kenan and Kel's lives.
He's brought a new piece, a new facet,
a change
right? to their dynamic, the entire dynamic of this universe, and it is represented by this scanner.
If you envision the countertop as two parts, two like kind of trapezoids coming together, then one of those trapezoids is Kenan, and there's a giant hole. Because he's going to Montana.
And I mean, what else do you scan? Well, when you go to the airport, you scan your tickets. Mm-hmm. And who used to work at the airport in Chicago that they'll be flying out of?
Oh wow, I didn't even think about that.
Roger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where are they flying? To Montana. Pummis.
Whoa, hang on.
Montana.
Wait, where did they end up going in the Cold War?
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Okay, I thought that was a crazy connection.
No,
for a second.
no.
All right. So yeah, Chris is ecstatic about this new laser scanner, but Kenan rolls up all glum.
He goes, "Hey, we got a new scanner," and blah blah blah. And Kenan goes, "Scanner?" Very subtly, I might add, but I did catch it. And Chris goes, "Yeah, all you have to do is plant your feet firmly, pick up an item, and wish it by."
Good Chris word. Kenan unfortunately has to report to Chris that he has to quit his job at Rigby's.
Chris is dumbfounded. He's like, "What? Why? Was it because I made you work late on the weekend?" Kenan's like, "No." He's like, "But I had to help Mother get her belly shaved. I can't have a mother with a hairy belly." Something just like so dumb.
Well, it's funny because he had to get her shaved at that point. This has happened before. At the end of the lottery episode, like after they destroyed Rigby's, Chris said that this is sad. I'm gonna go home and shave Mother. So it's probably her belly back then.
I mean, it's possible, or it could have been her feet. There's a lot of talk about his mother's feet.
Yeah, her feet get scraped, but they might be shaved too.
Maybe he shaves his mother's head. Maybe she has cancer.
There's a lot of possibilities for Chris's mother.
We don't know. I mean, they were out.
No.
They were out for Thanksgiving dinner. Maybe she didn't get enough amino acids because Kel stole the turkey. She's been debilitating ever since.
She put in her meat teeth back then. It's not something she does all the time.
Yeah, she probably had to take a bunch of enzymes too. Maybe the enzymes, there wasn't any meat, so they were just eating away at her insides and led to ulcers.
Her hormones are all over the place. That's why
I don't know how many hormones there are for this woman. She's pretty done. Okay. Anyways, Chris says that he's explaining the scanner to Kenan and like this happens before what we were just talking about, but he says, "I got it for you. I thought you'd love it," and it's just like another like punch to the stomach.
Like I said, it's an emotional roller coaster before because it you keep getting hit over and over and over again by the part. Different people come to the realization at different times, and yeah, it means different things to them. But and when Chris was describing kind of, all the, why he was mad that he was tough on Kenan and made him work late the other day, I got a very particular vibe from that. That Chris, and I don't know why this came to me now, like two seasons into this, but I think Chris sees a lot of himself in Kenan. Because they start in the same way in high school, like working at the grocery store. And I feel like if we never got it throughout the series, but if we had a flashback to Chris, I think he'd be getting into similar trouble back then.
You think Chris would have gotten into trouble? Chris is like a nerd.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, what if Chris had like a Kel in his life who moved away and... All right, this would have to be like a 3-part episode to go into that plot line.
No, I like the idea though. I like the fact that Chris sees himself and Kenan. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's like a really. I mean, because why else would he be so forgiving for Kenan, right? Kenan's not the best.
There's
employee.
no other explanation for it.
He's a good employee, but he's not the best. Like he steals stuff. Like he doesn't show up to work.
This season he's been a big slacker too.
He makes Chris's job a lot harder. He like doesn't come to work when he needs him, and I'm sure Chris.
There's got to be some reason.
Yeah, and
I think that's a good reason.
I think so. I like that. Well, there's definitely some relationship between Kenan and Chris, and we don't always see how much they care about each other, but there's this really poetic moment here where
this is what made me feel that way, because they have the same vibe for each other and they're acting the same kind of awkward way with this goodbye essentially.
Yeah, and this is really it's a very masculine goodbye because they don't say anything, right? So yeah. Kenan says, "Yeah, I had to come by, and I just wanted you to know." And Chris is like, I know. I just wanted you to know that." And Kenan's like, "I know." And they're like, you know. And so that's basically how the conversation goes.
Yeah, which is very powerful.
Yeah,
they say it all without saying anything.
Exactly. Well, words can't even do it justice, and so that they knew that.
Yeah. After that, Kenan says, "It wasn't easy to tell you."
Chris goes, "I know."
Then Chris asked, like, "This is like, I'm sad, but I bet Kel feels terrible, right?"
And Kenan goes, "Well," and Chris is like, "You didn't tell him? You gotta tell him."
I know you know. We're not doing that again.
Yeah, and so Kenan's like, "I don't know how to tell him. It's just gonna break his heart." And Chris is like, gives him some advice. Like he's like, "You just gotta tell him. You gotta be a man about it. You gotta be strong." And then in walks Kel, and Chris
immediately
starts to cry and runs to the back room.
Yes. Just like so. Yeah, that's some good irony there. It's a tough episode with the jokes because they're good, but like every time you start laughing, it can't be for long.
Yeah, it's almost like for me, it was more of an amusement than a laughter. I just like seeing the characters do their thing. It wasn't super funny this episode. Nothing was that funny. It's funny when we talk about it, but
this is a good time for this kind of episode because we're halfway through the show. We're 2 seasons in. We spent a very long time with everyone. We know them well. This would be a bad mid-first season episode.
Oh yeah, they had to really put in their time for this episode.
For some reason, iCarly came to mind. Season 1, they had a Carly's moving away episode.
Yeah,
it's way too early for that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, I do think that they're older in this episode. Like I do, and I think what happened was they probably didn't know if they could pull this episode off. They didn't know, they didn't know if they could do a 2-parter. They didn't know if they could, actually, if Kenan and Kel were, their acting was good enough for this. And
that's a good point. This is the most acting they do, period, in the whole show.
Well, and I think what happened was they had some episodes made, and they're like, okay, I think they're ready, or okay, we have enough really good episodes that we can risk this, and we can dabble and change the formula for our audience a little bit.
Yeah. I like that concept. Same thing with the Christmas specials. Like once per season, they can change the formula.
Yeah, they have people who trust them enough. Their audience of Nickelodeon so reliable.
A whole season of goodwill, and you spend it on an emotional episode like this.
On a risk, and the risk, it pays off. Through and
Absolutely.
through. This is these 2 episodes are some of the best episodes of the show.
Highly ranked on IMDb, as we'll get to later on.
Yeah. So anyways, in walks Kel. Chris blubbers away to the back room. And then Kenan's like, oh, he's just upset about his mama's hairy belly. And they start to like laugh it off,
And Kenan is about to tell Kel what's up, but then he kind of, pushes it off and tells him to get some orange soda. You want some orange soda?
Kel's like, oh yeah.
And it's a real tough moment because Kel's still like kind of doing his thing. And you can really see the dichotomy on screen of Kenan's got this terrible secret they has to tell him. And and Cal's just asking him to set him up for the orange soda bit.
He's like, no, man, I gotta tell you something. He's like, please, come on. Don't leave me hanging. And who loves orange soda?
Cal loves orange soda. Adam loves orange Zevia. Well, Adam likes orange Zevia, and Adam's at the end of his orange Zevia, so let's get some Food Lion in this.
Food Lion. Get me some of that when you get it.
I will.
Although I'm not a big proponent of sugary sweetened beverages.
I'm gonna buy them out. Don't worry.
I hope you don't. Okay. Anyways, after the orange soda jingle, Kel's like, "Oh my gosh, what's this?" Chris got us a new scanner, and Kel's like, "Ooh, let me try it." And so he grabs his orange soda, and he's like back and forth. He's like almost like dancing with it, like doot 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 doot. He almost scans enough orange soda bottles to repay all the orange soda he stole.
And then he hops on, scans his butt. He's excited because his butt costs $13.65.
And Kenan's like, I've been trying to tell him this whole time, and so he just kind of comes out and says it.
He blurts it out that I'm moving to Montana.
And Kel's like, what?
Yeah, he's like, why are you joking? What are you joking about? And no, he's like, no, this is for real. And again, the awesome acting here is that Kel's first move is to really play it off and be cool. And I did note that Kel wasn't his like stupidest self for this episode. He's kind of very, and maybe that's something to be said about how emotionally mature he is. That when an episode dealing with emotional intelligence, like he's like at his smartest.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, everybody has different strengths. Kel's not the brightest. He's not. He's kind of silly and goofy and lacks common sense. But yeah, maybe he's emotionally intelligent. Maybe that's why he loves hanging out with Kenan so much, because like they have such a good connection that it's like a satisfying relationship in his life where he doesn't spend a lot of time with his family, so maybe that relationship with Kenan fills a lot of that void.
Oh wow. Yeah. We learned in the episode, get the Kel out of here, that he like needs to spend time with Kenan and visit him. Like it's a vital part of his life. So it's like losing more than family, losing Kenan.
Oh yeah. So Kel tries to play it off cool. He's like, oh yeah, cool. Mountain Ranger in Montana. Wow. You're probably gonna
meet a lot of new friends.
Yeah, you're going to go to a new school, a new job. You meet a lot of new friends. And it's kind of just like, oh.
So yeah, they have what feels like a very kind of... this has happened in this very spot of Rigby's before. They're acting a little too mature for themselves. And then they're like crossing their arms and like, okay, yeah, this is how it is. And then they immediately start like screaming and crying and hugging each other.
And it's really a beautiful moment. I mean,
oh yeah.
So think about the side of the counter that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like when when Kenan's behind the counter, right? It's the mature, it's the like trying to be an adult. And when they're on the other side of the counter, they're jumping around. They're being like Chris in the beginning of the scene, all giddy, running around the store. And so they are not having this moment behind the counter. They're having this moment in front of the counter. Like they're still just kids, and they have to do this really hard thing
Yeah, and speaking of vibing with them, Chris emerges from the back, and he sees them hugging and crying, and he joins them hugging and crying too.
And yeah, I mean, talk about a sweet moment. It's like, yeah, it's real. This whole loss of innocence thing that we touched on in the clowning around episode, it kind of rears its head again. It's like they are still kids, and they have to do the unimaginable, right? It's like leaving your best friend.
And I gotta, like, context has to be added here. When you move to Montana in, like, in this day and age, in this era, that's a whole, like, that's it, pretty much.
You'll never see him. You'll never see him again.
Yeah, you can be pen pals,
or you could call on the phone.
Yeah, but even that, like, cost money.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth saying that around this era of time, one of my best friends moved away.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was in first grade, and it hurts that in that time, and it was an era where, like, you can't Zoom call.
Nope.
You can't FaceTime. You can't talk over Facebook and stuff like that. So it's a real.
There wasn't the connection we have today.
Yeah. So pretty much you have to get new friends.
It's like a time capsule. This episode's like a time capsule because, like, friends don't really move away anymore. Like I'm regularly on Zoom calls with people from Australia and Canada, like all the time. Like I write with people online who are from all over the world. That never, ever could have been done back then.
And I think the important thing here is that the walkie-talkies symbolize that.
Yeah.
We'll get into them in a moment here, but they, like, it's only a certain radius that they work within. And once you're out of that, you're gone. Radio silence.
Yeah, there were no cell phones, right? I mean, maybe there were some, but not good ones.
Cal had an emergency cell phone in the Hemingway episode.
Oh my gosh. Cross-reference.
Yeah.
The episode.
After the commercial break, they're packing up Kenan's room. And I gotta say, it's always an awesome, powerful thing to see a blank set.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of lazy. This was a full, life-filled. Like, these walls were plastered. We've talked about so far in the show. The walls are plastered with hang-ups and posters and pictures and everything in the world. It's just all gone.
Yep. Trading cards and fat heads and... Yeah, it's all gone except for one Michael Jordan and some baseball and baseball cards and basketball cards hung up still that they're just kind of leaving as a memorial, I suppose.
Yeah. And they're packing up Mr. Hippie, the hippo, in a box.
And Kenan puts him in the box, closes the lid, and Kel freaks out. He's like, what? Like, you can't put him in a box. Like, he's Mr. Hippie. Like, he has to breathe. If he doesn't breathe, he's going to get brain damage. When I was in the hospital, you brought me Mr. Hippie, and he helped me recover. Like, he deserves to breathe. Makes this big deal.
Yeah. Oh, he was in the hospital because he broke his buttocks.
Oh, Dan Schneider.
Yeah, so they pack away Mr. Hippie, and Cal's looking around for other stuff to pack away, and he finds underneath the bed an action figure.
Robo McFist.
Yes, the Irish robot.
It's this, like, 2 foot tall green robot.
I saw this fun fact somewhere online. I could not find it, like, again before this episode. Maybe I'll find it for the follow-up. But this is an actual action figure that they, like, painted over. It's got a particular, like, name and stuff like that. But no, they made him green and called him Robo McFist.
The Irish fighting robot. It actually looks like a black Irishman, which is like a black leprechaun who's enormous. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And they do a bit with it where they're like, I'm Robo McFist, I'm gonna get you. You'll never take me alive. And they're basically tackling each other on the bed, right?
Yep.
And then something crazy happens.
Flashback to 1989 or some date in the distant past.
I'm guessing 1987.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so 1987, you see 2 young, like, call them like 15, 16-year-old. I'm sorry,
Whoa.
5 and 6-year-old.
Yeah, there you go.
Kenan and Kel wrestling in the bedroom.
And they're doing the same exact thing with Robo McFist.
And Mrs. Cheryl comes in, dressed as you would in 1987. She's got her hair different, and she's got kind of like I'm not. That was that was 6 years before I was born, so I don't have any point of reference for that. She looks like 2 years after Back to the Future.
There are those
Right.
there are those pictures hanging in Grandmom's house of Mom and her sisters. Something like that.
She's dressed like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in the 80s. Yeah. So anyway, she walks in and she's like, "You guys have to be quiet. Like, you just woke up Kyra." And then in walks Roger.
Well, hang on. There's a couple bits here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
First, woke up Kyra, that's what made me think it's exactly 10 years ago. Kyra turned 10 this season and clowning around, so she's probably like a newborn.
Wow.
So, in response to saying, like, you gotta be quiet, little Kenan says, "Why?"
All right. And Kel says, "Oh, here it goes."
We're just having fun. That's, I understand the effort. I see what they did there. But that is not a response to what she said, or what anyone would say ever. Unless the question's like, what's Kel's catchphrase?
They're cartoons. They're cartoons.
Yeah. And this happens inside the show format, not out on stage.
Right.
Like this Kel does not know that phrase.
Yes, he does.
Does he?
Well, they say, "Oh, here it goes" inside the episodes.
I think I remember like maybe once or twice.
Yeah, it's not much, but
No, I guess what I'm saying is that he should have said his other catchphrase, which is, "I'm just a child."
Oh, that would have been much better.
So much better.
So much better. Could you imagine?
It's like layers of jokes there.
Yeah. That would have been better.
You're right. Roger shows up.
And he looks just as large as normal, except even larger.
Because he has a full afro on his head.
It's perfect. It's like this giant afro, and
I'm pretty sure our dad has that wig.
yeah.
I'm sure it's the exact same one.
Yes. I can't believe that somebody went from afro to bald so quickly.
Well, my other theory is that that's 10 years of Kel. Because not only, like, how many, like, head injuries has he given Roger just this season alone?
Yeah, he probably had to get his head, like, cut open and stitched, and so he had to get shaved. I want to like point out something here. We haven't seen this before. We haven't seen young Kenan and Kel. We didn't know how far back their relationship goes, but it seems at least 10 years. At least 10 years. I mean, it's a pretty big flashback. It actually tells us a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
And what else happens in this scene, Adam? We gotta hit on the high notes.
Roger says to them, "All right, no time to go to bed. No more hullabaloo."
Hullabaloo.
Yeah, so they're doing all their classics there. But then they play a game with Roger with Robo McFist, and like he kind of like does a little taunting thing back and forth with them. And how does it end?
The fist flying off Robo McFist and into Roger's eye, which he's just like groaning in pain.
Yeah, it hits him right in the left eye, and we return to the present, or 23 years ago in the present.
Oh man. That flashback was 33 years from this date.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oh my god.
So yeah, they return to the present, and Kenan explains that Roger couldn't see out of his left eye for 2 weeks.
In walks Roger.
Yeah, he's checking in on them, make sure they've packed up everything, and Cal shoots him in the face again with Robo McFist's fist.
And oh my eye!
So this is a back-to-back two-parter. You gotta watch the rest of the episode with this in mind, that Roger only has one operating eye.
Yep.
They sadly sit down on Kenan's desk with the walkie-talkies and talk about what to do with them.
In the empty room, they sit there and they're discussing the fate of these walkie-talkies. They're like, "Here, Kenan's like, here, you keep them, Kel. Maybe you'll meet another friend." And Kel's like, no, you should have them because, yeah, who knows?
They did a compromise, and each is going to take one back with them.
And then they'll always remember each other.
Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. This sad Kenan Kel theme again.
This is a classic scene. This scene is like Like Nick Rewinds has it on like YouTube, has a lot of hits on this scene. But this is like, so here they are in this empty room, all the stuff packed up, the walls are empty. They're sitting on the desk that no longer has the magic computer on it. And Kel hits the walkie-talkie button and he says, Kel to Kenan.
Kenan to Kel.
I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too.
Wah, wah, wah. It's terribly sad, people. It's terribly sad.
Oh yeah. So I think there's another commercial break or something. I gotta track that if they're gonna keep. Yeah. So I think it's the first time we've ever seen two.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Might be a new formatting thing.
Yeah, good.
You know?
I mean, more commercials, more marketers.
Maybe they do that like in the Christmas season. They gotta like double those
for
Christmas
sure
ads.
on Nickelodeon. Oh yeah. Last minute Christmas gifts.
Speaking of last minute, downstairs.
I thought you were going to ask what I wanted for Christmas.
You told me already. You want something that you might use one day.
Like I don't want a real gift. I don't want something I'm going to use that's boring. I want something I'm not going to use that's exciting. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the movers are finishing up and taking some stuff out. Roger stops one of them because it's a very important box that he has. What's it full of? His
late grandmother's best dishes.
Yes. And so he's like, be as careful as you can with that. And he is, and he walks over to the door, and the door is shoved open by Kel, and he drops the box, shattering it.
Roger comes through the kitchen door and goes, no! Or something like that.
Yeah, and Kel's like, don't worry, Mr. Rockmore. I'm sad to see you go too.
Yeah, it's a great line. It's a great moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Rockmore is just really like he's over Kel. He's just like, ugh.
Yeah, he's happy he doesn't have to see him anymore for sure. Cheryl says to her kids like, all right, grab everything else they have left because the plan is that they're leaving in 45 minutes. They gotta catch their flights.
And so Kyra hears this and grabs Kel, gives him a big hug.
Yeah.
Squeezes all the air out of him.
Yeah. Which made me realize that we didn't really zoom in on Kyra's reaction to this, but she's certainly heartbroken.
She's heartbroken. She's definitely taking it better than Kenan, though, because she doesn't have that like one person that she's leaving behind, She has a lot of friends, I'm sure, but she doesn't have that one person.
It's a little different 10 versus like 16.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Before they can say a goodbye to each other, Kel sees the time and rushes out the door because he's got to do something.
And Kenan's like, "What, Kel? No, I got to leave soon." He's like, "I'll be right back."
We follow him to the next scene where he is he enters into what I believe is a painting and framing store.
Yeah, a framing store. It looks like, they still have those, honestly. They still do.
Yeah.
That's still a thing.
Absolutely. He goes there and he rings the bell and an old man rolls up to the counter. And I gotta say, I just realized now, more counter talk here. Because Kel he has lost control of the situation. He is trapped on the far side of the counter as he's at the mercy of this slow old man.
Just like he's at the mercy of this decision made by adults, right? It's like he's totally at the whim of adult decisions here, adult power.
Yeah, early on in the episode, Kenan was upset because he only had 2 weeks left here. And it's like this time clock, like counting down to when the Rockmores are leaving is also impairing Kel too. It's never been more apparent than when he's basically paralyzed in the store trying to pick up his order, but the old man is like really no help whatsoever.
Yep. Yeah. He's old, incoherent. He has like dementia. He keeps asking Kel, like, "Can I help you?" And Kel's like, "Yeah, I had a painting ordered or a picture ordered." Blah blah blah.
We've all been there.
Yep.
We've all first try said exactly what we need someone to do, and they it's not enough.
Like what?
Not to blame them. I'm sure people give them a hard time all the time.
Yeah. So,
but this guy should have been retired like 20 years ago.
Yes, this guy is very old, and so it's just like you can feel the anxiety levels rise because you're like you can already see what's going to happen.
You've been late before. And I've been late before. Everyone's been in this situation where it's like, oh, I gotta come on, hurry up.
And I think there's way more innocence here because it's like Kel knows the date that they're leaving. And so when does he call to get this painting picked up? Well, it's like, or the picture picked up. It's on the day that they're leaving. So he's like thinking like a kid. He's not thinking like, oh, I should make sure I have it a couple days in advance. Or he's not thinking like, he's thinking like, that's the day. I want to make sure he has it on that day.
When he's telling the old man, he's like, I got the call earlier today that it's ready. So maybe it was in a long queue for a while.
Yeah.
Like, he's... this episode has shown him he's a responsible friend. And he's just trying to make these two, like, these two things work out at the same time. He wants to give his friend Kenan this great gift.
And so we're just kind of going back and forth here. We see, like, Kel, like, asking this old man, and then Kenan, like, back home looking for him. They're almost all packed up. We go back to the store. The old man is still taking a long time, but eventually walks out and has this picture. I keep saying painting. Sorry, I got painting on the brain.
We don't have time for the paint.
What?
So yeah, he passes the picture, and it's the wall is seeing the picture. The audience can't see it. And he passes it to Cal. Cal's like, "This is great," and rushes out the door. And as he leaves, the old man
That'll
says,
be $25.
And as he like walks to the back room, he says, "I'm an old man."
I think he says something like, "I'm so old."
Yeah, that's it. Which that's awesome. If I get to that age, I want to just do that all the time. I'm old.
So that'd be your catchphrase.
Yeah. So back in the family room, everything's gone. I think there's a single box left, but it's missing the next bit. But finally, the Rockmores are off to Montana, and Kenan is desperately calling his walkie-talkie.
Kenan to Kel. Kel, I gotta go.
It continues to tug at your heartstrings.
Yeah, and so they gotta get in the taxi because they gotta catch their plane. They cannot miss it. They can't afford to miss it. And so
it occurs to me that this is really well planned out, in the sense that Roger he had a job at the airport previously. He put in what I assume is their 2-week notice. That's why he like came in all excited, but still dressed for work, and says that we're leaving in 2 weeks. Like that all adds up. And now they're at the mercy of like the airports. Like they can't book another flight and stuff like that. It's all really tight and tied together when you think about it.
Yeah, and I mean like the time frame too. Like the reason that they can't wait a little bit longer is they have to catch their flight, right? They can't miss their flight. Could they probably have waited a little bit longer? Well, maybe, but we don't really know the circumstances. We don't know what day of the week it is, the traffic. We don't know, like, how many flights.
Let's revisit that when Kenan and Kel go to Hollywood in season 4. I think we learn more about their flight habits and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm sure we do.
Kenan sadly turns and leaves with his parents to catch that cab.
Yep. So,
but the episode's not over.
It's not over. In a couple moments, Kel knocks on the door and enters, looking for his best friend Kenan.
Yeah, he runs up the stairs, runs in the back room, and he's like, "Hey, you guys haven't left yet, right? You haven't left yet." And I'll put it in here because you can just feel, like I said, you can feel the emotion dripping in every word that he says.
He's in like disbelief that his friends gone, that the Rockmores have left, and he didn't get to say goodbye.
He takes out his walkie-talkie and says, "Kel to Kenan, Kel to Kenan," and he's not there. So the saddest moment in Kenan and Kel. And the cherry on top is when he walks to the front door, flips over the picture and leaves it at the old Rockmore residence.
The Rockmore residence is empty, except for one stray box and this picture, which is Kenan and Kel, a little bit younger.
I have to say, this is probably like an all that cast photo.
Yeah, it's
with how young they are and them together having fun.
But it is just a beautiful picture. And it's
yeah.
Kel got it framed. Like, just the amount of care that went into this gift. Like, he wanted to give this to Kenan so that, because he's afraid. He's afraid. Well, first off, he's never going to see his friend again. But also, he's afraid that Kenan's going to forget him. And they're boys, and they're never going to be boys again because, like, Kenan's going to go do this new thing, and Kel's just going to kind of be stuck there.
Yeah, he doesn't know what the future lies in the future for him. But he says to Kenan, or rather, I think worth noting, it's a $25 frame. It's a nice picture. That's no chicken scratch back then.
That's a lot of savings.
He didn't skip on paying them.
He didn't pay. No. He failed to pay the framing store.
We were also talking about how long this picture took to get. He probably had a special order that back then. Like, he didn't. That's not something you put into. It's a legit picture.
Yeah, it's a legit picture, but he also got terrible service at the store, so I don't feel bad about him not paying.
So he ultimately, he exits the scene, and for the third and final time, we hear the sad Kenan and Kel theme.
And then we hear clapping and cheers.
Back on stage, we're back in the audience, looking out on stage, and only Kel goes out in front.
He comes out on stage. He says, "How could you be clapping at a time like this?"
Yeah, I got very kind of school production vibes from this. Not that it was bad or anything like that, but that's the vibe that I got with the applause breaks. But he has to be serious.
I think it's different when you're talking directly to people than when you're acting. It's that's totally different. Like, imagine like a normal actor, just it goes from acting to theater. And that's a big switch, and for these young characters to make that switch in the episode that they did the most acting they've ever done, that's a pretty tough switch to make. But I still, the sentiment's still there,
Yeah, you can feel the void out there. Oh, it's just Kel, and he. If I ever had to deliver a 30-second monologue or something, I would do his little speech here.
All right, well,
it's pretty great.
Should we put it in, or do you want to say it?
Yeah, no, let's put it in.
I would prefer if you did the monologue.
I didn't write it down.
What if I never see him again? What if he finds a new best buddy? What will become of me? Which was not a Kel line, but it was in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to say it yet. I gotta wait till the end of this episode.
So yeah, it leaves on a cliffhanger, and the audience claps him out. That's what made me feel like a drama, because he's clearly not in the mood for that, but everyone's like, yeah, you did a good acting job, Kel.
I could say it. Oh, to be continued.
Who knows what'll happen next? You have to wait until after Christmas.
Unbelievable.
So that is Bye Kenan Part 1.
That was pretty in-depth and pretty heart-wrenching episode. I cried 3 times.
So I didn't truly cry like I did during the Merry Christmas Kenan. But I was definitely very soft and sentimental about it. For me, the ratio tipped over a little bit more than the Merry Christmas Kenan, which I thought had the perfect balance. But it's nevertheless one of the most important episodes of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Let's get into... So, whose fault do you think the situation is? Kenan's or Kel's?
Nobody's. Nil. That is not their fault.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think it's Roger's fault either. He's just following his dream. That was his dream. We didn't mention this. That was his dream to become a mountain ranger. His lifelong dream.
Yeah. It's a... Did you ever have a lifelong dream of that, caliber? Did you want to be a fireman?
Not a fireman. No, I definitely want to have a cabin in Montana and live in the wilderness. I like that idea. I don't know if I have a lifelong dream that's that far removed from what I will be doing. You know what I mean? He was pretty far removed as an air traffic controller.
I think I got one. There's a period of time, I think 5th and 6th grade where I wanted to be a private eye. Like a private investigator, not a detective, like a like a noir film, basically. I wanted to live that kind of life.
I wanted to be a dentist when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, right. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, that was a bad like aspiration. I wish I was like I wanted to be an astronaut. That would have been a much better story. But
oh man, thank you for reminding me of that. That's awesome.
The dentist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was all set. I told the dentist about it and everything. He gave me $5 one time.
That's a good con right there. Everywhere you go, just tell them like, yeah, I want to be a pediatrician.
Who else do you see as a kid? Oh, I want to work at McDonald's.
I want to be a banker.
Yeah.
You're my hero. Just
unlimited lollipops.
Although, yeah, I was gonna say that the bank's not a place that we're gonna get $5 for doing nothing.
Yeah, they don't do that
unless you open a savings account.
They don't just have they don't just have money laying around, like, you know.
Yeah. So I have a couple Meet the Rockmores here from I'll learn a little bit more about the cast and friends here. Kel once broke his buttocks, as we said. We just mentioned Roger's life dream, and 10 years ago he had a full head of hair. Chris's mother gets her belly shaved.
Yes, she does.
All right. And Rigby's accounting department. Some of those, I'm not sure if Kel's butts value is ever going to come up, but I might. Kel did steal $25 from the framing guy. Well deserved. He wasted his time.
Yeah, he ruined the episode.
No, or he made the episode better.
Well, he ruined Kel's plan. With a plan or a plot to make it to the top. He ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in every episode a plan is ruined. So it does fit.
They're always in the middle because I was getting caught. So let's get into the ratings for this one. On IMDb, this episode has an 8.6. Actually, I checked my IMDb scores recently, and apparently they've been adjusted since like the half year ago when I first put these on there by like 0.1 or 2. But when I wrote this down, it had an 8.6, which ranks it as number 1 on the episode list of Kenan Kel episodes, the tip top of their scale. So, what are your final thoughts of the episode? And out of 10 bottles of orange soda, how many would you give this one?
Well, this episode was just simply wonderful. I don't know, I didn't know that they had it in them to do an episode like this, and I love that the writers took a risk. I love the thoughtfulness behind the plot, and I really love just how good at acting Kenan and Kel are. You know, it's like, yeah, it's still funny, and they're still just kids, but
yeah, I don't think they've done this much acting in the show since Bag and Sag and Kel, when they were acting like they were getting into a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, exactly. And I mean, yeah, it's
uncommon, and you think they're just a bunch of goofballs, but they're not. They're kid actors, and they go on to do films and movies and lots of other things. And this is like, this might be the most acting I've ever seen from them.
Yeah, no, I mean,
which is crazy.
I just love the depth of characters we get. I love the just how great Kel is in this episode. You know, just from his reaction to his care for Kenan, to getting the gift. Like, so I give this episode a 10. 10 bottles of orange soda. I don't know how it could have been better. I cried 3 times during a Nickelodeon sitcom from the 90s.
Yeah, you gotta reward that. I want to give this episode all the praise in the world, and it's great, and I definitely think it deserves to be in that, like, kind of top 10 category of Kenan and Kel, just because of how much good stuff comes with it. I've got a couple bones to pick with part 2, because I think it definitely rides the coattails of this episode. They're usually like shown together back to back, takes a little goodwill from it, but this one by itself is amazing. It's real good. And it's definitely pulls at those heartstrings. I'm gonna give it a, and I may inflate this in the finale.
If you give it an 8,
give it like
I'm gonna be mad.
No, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 bottles of orange soda.
It's at least 9 worthy.
Yes, it's definitely in that upper echelon. That's a great episode. It's just it was missing some of the components that I come to Kenan and Kel for. Which sounds a little unfair, But it's like I would call, like, early in the season, I would call Turkey Day a perfect episode.
Yeah, I get it. But Turkey Day didn't make me cry.
No.
This is a piece of art. It's not a Kenan and Kel formula. It is a standalone piece of art.
Absolutely. And on the art scale, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. On the Kenan and Kel scale, I'm giving it a 9 right now.
This is why
All right.
Kenan and Kel are how they are. You'll change that rating. I know you will. You'll come to the bright side.
Tune in to the season finale when you. This is the sad moment where everyone's like, "What's going on? Ab and Aaron aren't gonna be friends anymore."
Yeah, we have to have a little disagreement.
Do. All right. So thank you for joining us for this wonderful episode of Kenan and Kel with Ab and Aaron. I wanted to plug here at the end that Kenan and Kel is now on CBS All Access, the streaming service with a bunch of other Nick shows.
We did it.
So
it's
on streaming.
Yeah, we did it. It was all us.
Yeah, they saw the buzz from our program.
All our thousands of listeners.
Yeah,
millions of listeners.
Yeah, so hopefully you can watch along with us now, and it won't just be our solid accounts.
I mean, all of my Amazon account. All right, until next time when we see part 2 of Bye Kenan.
Yes. Until then, everyone.
To be continued.
Thank you for listening. You can send us an email at KenanCalPodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/KenanCalPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at KenanCalPodcast.
What?